What's up, everybody? Shauna D-Man here. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys are having yourselves a great week so far. We are here. Now, this article came out earlier in September. I just have not had a chance to get around talking about it. But we're going to do, like, this is a really short video, but we're going to do a quick dive into one of the Star Wars people. It doesn't really say who, but Star Wars boss quietly confirmed real reason why The Acolyte was canceled. This is from um it says Gaming Bible. I'll have the link down in the description below. You may have already came across it. But real quick before we get into this little article is not very long, relatively short, but Star Wars The Acolyte. Now, it came out last year in 2024. We got the first trailer, I believe, I believe maybe like in April or May, I think it was. And even with the first trailer, I was not entirely sure. Something about it was kind of off. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. Now, obviously, the show was set before the kind of prequel trilogy of movies, so it was set in the like High Republic era, because obviously a lot of people wanted to explore some of these other eras outside of the Skywalker saga and some of these within this little timeline. So this was the first project that Disney put out that took place outside of the Skywalker saga. And listen, it this was a very divisive show. It was not a very good show. And if you remember, there was just this whole stupid logic of, if you did not like the show, oh, it's because you're a racist, oh, it's because you're this. And that is not the case. The show was not very good. I didn't like any of the characters. Let me take the back. The actor who played Soul, I thought he was great. Even the actor, Manny Manny Macentos, if I said his name correctly, I actually liked him as the bad guy. I thought outside of those two, I didn't really like anybody else. I was very upset because, like, I like Daphne Keene. She plays X-23 and Logan, Deadpool and Wolverine. Uh, she played Jackie in this series, and I really loved this actress, but I didn't really like her that much in this series. Um, I just felt like they could have done more with her. And this is probably a problem with the whole 8 episode format when it comes to these TV shows. You don't really get time to develop with these characters or invest in these characters. And so when she dies in the show, I was just kind of like, eh. And that was it. That was relatively it. Wasn't like a huge thing for me to really care about. Um, and there's other stuff too, like the way they play around with time in this series. None of the characters aren't just not that interested, and because of it by the end of the series, everybody is either love it or you hate it. Like, or if you're just in the middle, if you're just somebody who just didn't really care about the show. But the loudest people were, to be quite honest, the people, if you want to call them the Disney Star Wars shields. Sorry about that. You can definitely do that. That's completely fine. Because if you guys remember, these groups of people, I'm not really going to go list their names and everything like that. They came out and tried to. I remember it because they tried to deplatform a lot of other creators because they felt like what these creators were saying was basically hateful comments. And because the show not quietly, the show was canceled. It was not going to get a season two. And it was really interesting because it was maybe like 2-3 weeks, maybe a month after the show had finished, that it got the news that it was not being renewed for a second season. Now, there's other reasons why a lot of people didn't like it. You had Leslie Hanlon. I don't remember her last name. I guess that shows how much I paid attention to her. Um, who was the personal assistant of Harvey Weinstein. So a lot of people had issues with that off the bat. There was a lot of other issues that people had with it. Then you had Amanda Lecember coming out with her trashing of Star Wars fans and her diss track, and it was also tiresome. So it was just stuff like that that just turned everybody off from the show. Nobody really wanted to defend the show except for those who you would consider um, Disney shills. So, you know, a lot of people wondered. We never really got a full reason on why the show got canceled, but to be pretty clear, the viewership was not there, and there was not really a whole idea of investing the amount of money. Because I don't remember. It was a pretty expensive show. Let's see. Let me look. Um. So for the eight episode series, production was like around 230, almost $231 million, and that's like around um. Let's see. Let's see here, and that's divided up between doing 8 episodes. So it was a pretty expensive show, and the turnout was not good whatsoever in regards to um viewership numbers. Now people tried to be like, oh, people, you know, a lot of people watched the ending of the series and tried to justify that it should have gotten to season two. But again, no, nobody really showed up. A lot of the people who were I've never seen this like on Twitter and TikTok, because the people who were clamoring, just like, oh, I don't see why this show got canceled. So a lot of these people watched the show after it already aired. Like some of the comments I was seeing, some of the posts that people were making about the show in general, either whether they were doing it just for engagement farming or whatever, a lot of them, or even I don't even know if they even actually watched the show, but a lot of them were basically saying, "Oh, I just watched the whole series." And this is maybe like a month or so after the show had finished. And so some of them were like, "Oh, I just watched the whole series. I don't see why it gets all the hate." And like, I was like, "Okay, so you weren't watching the show while it was going on, because you need people to watch the show why it's going on to help with the viewership to justify getting a season two." A lot of people watched the series after it all had wrapped up and everything. So yeah. So this was published on September 6th. Star Wars boss quietly confirmed real reason The Acolyte was canceled and you missed it. All right, so like I said, this is pretty short. So it seems that a Star Wars boss has confirmed the real reason why The Acolyte was canceled, and most of us probably missed it. Set during the High Republic era, roughly a century before the events of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, The Acolyte had an interesting premise of a Jedi Master investigating a series of brutal murders, with hints that sinister forces may be at play. Exclusive to Disney Plus, The Acolyte consisted of 8 episodes, and while some were hit and miss, it is at the very least had potential to tell an interesting story of a popular Sith Lord, unexplored in live action form in season 2. Sadly, season 2 never came to be. Despite garnering millions of views over its opening episodes, The Acolyte was canceled after its debut season had concluded. Many assumed the series may have been canceled as a result of fan backlash, but that is not entirely the case. As reported, Vulture thinks, I don't know who you are, Disney Entertainment co-chair Alan Bergman said that the cost structure of The Acolyte did not warrant a second season. Now that is something we did hear not long after the initial reaction of the show being canceled. We were happy with our performance, but it wasn't where it needed to be to make it season 2, added Bergman. It makes sense that Disney and Lucasfilm would not continue the show if it's not cost effective. However, surely if that was really the case, an overinflated budget could be reduced. I'd be shocked if the very vocal fan backlash didn't play some part, because it sounds like its cost is a convenient excuse. I can only speculate, sure. The writing was very poor in parts, but I still feel The Acolyte had plenty of potential to improve. The Acolyte, okay, so I think that's uh um okay, this is just people. Yeah, I'm not reading all that. I just mainly wanted to read like the top part of it. But yeah, so to get, like I said, I'll have the link down in the description below if you have not already read this. So basically, the way it's framed is that this was a convenient excuse to drop this series, and backlash, it definitely could play a part of it. Um, the show was just not good, and so like I can understand why people like the series. I can see why they liked it, but it just was not a good show. The writing was not very great. So let me go. So one of the things was what I thought this series was going to be was I had thought this series was going to be a kind of focus point on the Sith ideology, kind of like in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, there's Korriban and they have the Sith Academy, that kind of stuff. If they would have done more with that, that would have been interesting. And then I was very upset that like we were supposed to be getting like this kind of murder mystery, and I enjoy murder mystery type of content, whether it's video games or shows, or movies, or whatever. I actually kind of enjoy it. I may not figure it out like right off the bat, but I enjoy going through the process of figuring out the clues and stuff like that. So this was supposed to be like kind of a murder mystery. You have the Jedi trying to solve these brutal murders, only to have these brutal murders be solved in episode 2 when you find out that so and so has one of the main people has a twin sister. And so I was just kind of like, oh, okay, all right. And then because not only that, you have Osha and May. So Osha was Soul's Padawan for a time being. So this didn't make so they somehow. So one of the things that happened is, I'm trying to remember all of it. It's been a year since I watched the series, so I'm trying to remember. So there's a moment where Osha crash lands on a planet, and this is after like some of the prisoners eject them, like and get into escape pods and escape. And so here's the thing. Here's some. Okay, prisoners escape off this Republic ship. Okay, the ship crashes. Jedi come. I believe if I remember right, it was like the Jedi. They came, picked up the prisoners, flew back to Coruscant, realized that the ship, crashed landed on the planet, go from Coruscant all the way back to the planet that they were just at, picking up these prisoners, and then go down to see if anybody survived the wreckage. When they were already there, they could have done a planetary wide scan or something like that. They didn't do that. Episode 4, I believe it is. You have it to where, so you have Kaimar and May. They arrive on Kofor to find Kaunaka, the Wookiee Jedi. They clearly land there first and start their journey to where his location is. Meanwhile, you have on Coruscant, you have the Jedi going over their plan, yada yada yada, and they make their way to Kofor to find Kaunaka and retrieve him. May and Kaimar have a clear time advantage over Soul and the other Jedi. But somehow the Jedi are able to land and able to catch up to Kofor and May, or mainly May, all in the span of this one episode. So, because you don't really know where Kofor is, you would assume it could be in the mid rim, it could be the outer rim. I don't remember if they specifically showed where it was at, but it was just like just small stuff like that. I was kind of like, I don't really like that much. That could have been done better, but overall viewership, you could, if you want to say cost, that's fine as well. The show just was not good, and it was not going to get a season two. It just wasn't. And then I remember all the backlash and everything like that. It was just kind of, it was overblown. It was just overblown stuff. But that is relatively it, guys. Like I said, this was just gonna be a kind of a short little video, just reading this quick little article. At least talking about why the show was canceled. Like I said, I will have it linked in the description below for you guys to go read for yourself. But be sure you hit that like and subscribe button, comment below. Other than that, guys, I will see you in the next video. You guys have a good one.